Hello everyone, xForts here, and welcome to JoJolion Chapter 62 review titled Blue Hawaii Part 2. So this review is going to be a special head edition episode on xForts JoJolion reviews here. So jumping right into the chapter, there's a bit of a time skip because the last chapter left off with Josuke kind of surrounded by a crowd of people, and he realized that it's dangerous to be around all these people because he doesn't know which one is infected by Blue Hawaii's sort of virus ability. So in the next chapter, chapter 62, the one we're going to be talking about today, starts off with him at a shoe store, which is really fucking cool because last chapter he lost his shoes and he went to the shoe store, and there's always some sort of narration dialogue in the beginning of each of these chapters on the title page, and this one says what's going on at this shoe store, because we see Josuke. It looks like he just either stole or bought a pair of shoes. I'm mixed on it because the employee, the guy that's behind the counter, is sort of looking at him like suspiciously. So I don't know if Josuke just walked in here and grabbed a pair of shoes off the shelf and just ran out. But while he was in there, he also grabbed a bottle of water, which is going to be that's going to come into play later with Soft and Wet's abilities. So either Josuke just stole these shoes or he bought them, whichever one, doesn't matter. It'd be even more badass if he stole them. But getting on to the next panel here. So getting on to the first actual page of the chapter, Josuke has sort of an epiphany as he realizes that he's a lot more cornered than he thought he was, and he realizes that Blue Hawaii is actually a lot more dangerous than he initially thought. And especially us as the readers too. I mean, I still think Blue Hawaii is sort of a simple ability that it wouldn't be that hard to get away from it as long as you can find the user and defeat Dolomiti himself. I mean, the stand itself, yeah, it will come at you no matter what, and it will keep infecting people, especially when you're around a crowd of people like Josuke is right now. So he realizes that he needs to be a little bit more cautious, and he's in a worse situation than he thought he was. And then we get some inner monologue from Josuke in the next panel, talking about sort of his thought process, how he was either going to take a bus or a taxi to get to the plant appraiser to try to contact him, but obviously that plan was interrupted by Blue Hawaii now, and they're really hyping up the plant appraiser. So every time we mention this guy, we always see a picture of him too. Pretty much anytime we mention his name, we see an image of him. And I want to meet this character so bad, because once we reach the plant appraiser, or at least by the end of Blue Hawaii, I think that is going to be a major shift in JoJolion, and maybe even its climax. And this is where everything starts. Like, even right now, you can tell everything's building up, and there's going to be a big payoff at the end of this, the Blue Hawaii arc. Once Josuke either confronts Jobin or Dolomiti, whichever one. But JoJolion right now is leading up to something big, and this plant appraiser is going to be a big deal. So then Josuke realizes that coming to the Morioh station was a bad idea, because of course there's a lot of people there trying to get transportation. And in the last chapter, he realized that crowds are a bad idea, and he's surrounded by people right now. And we also get this interesting bit of monologue that Josuke realizes that sort of Dolomiti is a master of his stand, and he knows how to use it really well. And he also questions what kind of person with this stand ability could have been living in Morioh this whole time without anyone knowing. So he's sort of like, what kind of life did this person live? And I think Dolomiti didn't really use his stand ability that much. He's just been living at the pond in secrecy, really living his own life, segregated from everyone else in an isolated environment. So that's sort of what Josuke's asking, like, who could this possibly be? And really no one you expect, a destroyed rock human living by a pond. And then he just says that this ability is going to throw the town in chaos, and it definitely will, and we've already seen it do it in this chapter. So I really think this is the first time Dolomiti has used his stand to the fullest of its abilities in a while. Maybe ever since the incident where he lost his body. But as we see right here, Josuke sees some blood on this woman's necklace, and he realizes that this is the woman that is infected with the virus currently. And then it's a lot more of the same. The last couple chapters, it's just been Josuke running away from Blue Hawaii, and really most of the chapter is just this. But the way he does it, we just see some cool, unique things from Josuke in the way that he, avoids getting hit by the blood. So in this case right here, he uses the water bottle to, make a barrier between him and her, but still be able to block her away. And I think in this chapter, yeah, he puts Soft and Wet's bubbles up against his hand, so in between his hand is bubbles, and he pushes her face forward. And I'm thinking by this logic that wouldn't it be safe to just completely surround your body in bubbles, except your eyes, and just walk around as just like a giant bubble, or even put yourself inside a bubble? But I'm not sure if Soft and Wet would be capable of producing that many bubbles to completely encase Josuke, or just even a giant one to encase Josuke for a long period of time without it popping. Josuke just kind of hits this girl a couple times, gets him off her, and then just continues to run away. And she actually almost gets him here. She makes like a big swiping motion, and she rips the back of his scarf, sort of the sailor, there's a word for it, but I'm blanking on it. It's called a neckerchief. I had to look that one up. It was bothering me. So, yeah, she actually cuts Josuke's neckerchief and just swipes it a little bit. But then he continues to run away. And then this woman runs into a crowd of people, which is where we see her infect the next person of Blue Hawaii. And the thing with Blue Hawaii is that it's a lot of coincidences are happening. So it just so happens that the person dies as soon as they touch someone else. We've seen this happen like 3 times so far, with the boy getting killed, and then the woman getting killed, and it just so happened that someone was around the person getting killed where the blood could hit them. So what if Josuke killed the person, or the person themselves died, and there was no one else around to get infected by the blood? Would the effect just end until maybe someone walked over the blood or actually came in contact with it? Because I feel like that could really stunt Blue Hawaii's ability and put an end to like this whole arc, at least in the meantime. If Josuke could just keep the one person that's infected by Blue Hawaii and get them isolated and either just trap them somewhere so they're not able to infect anyone else, because what we've seen is that it can only infect one person at a time. So the woman runs through the crowd, and then she breaks through the crowd, and then just so happens that she gets ran over by a motorcycle, and then we see kind of reminiscent of Diego Brando here. But then we see that a man that she infected that got blood on him from the crowd. Just one person, though. Not a bunch of people from the crowd. Just one person from the crowd comes running after Josuke, enforcing that only one person can be infected by the virus at a time, and sort of death is what passes it on. So then Josuke is really getting a grasp of how Blue Hawaii works, and he yells, "It transferred!" And then he continues to run away. And then it's just, we get another scenario of, Josuke defending himself from the person infected. So he comes upon a bike rack and he jumps over it, and the man who is infected runs into the bike rack. And there is sort of a fence at the end of the bike rack, and Josuke jumps over it. And since Blue Hawaii, whoever is infected, really can't tell where their surroundings are, or they just go in a straight line in a very linear fashion to attack Josuke. So we see the man just full speed, head first into the fence, and we see this really gory panel where it looks like something on like Final Destination, where just his face gets pushed back, and just as it turns into like little squares, sort of looks like Wikapipo's hair, and he just face gets pushed forward. We see his eyeballs exploding, Kakyoin style, and then the blood sort of shoots out at him, and this is where the water bottle comes in handy. The water bottle has saved Josuke twice so far, so really fucking convenient that he bought a water bottle, or grabbed a water bottle at that shoe store. So he holds the water bottle up like this. I'll show you guys the panels on screen as well, obviously, and Soft and Wet sort of slices it, and it cuts the water bottle completely open, and it makes sprays the water everywhere, and Soft and Wet manipulates that water to encase Josuke in a bubble that isn't invincible, obviously, but as soon as the blood touches it, it protects Josuke, but then it sort of disappears, and the blood stays on the water, sort of as the... it looks like the water turned into fabric, which doesn't make any sense, because... though it looks like the blood's sticking to it, but I think that's the best way it could be portrayed with an illustration. So, good job, Araki. Looks great. And I think this is my favorite panel from this chapter. Last one was that really funky Josuke pose he was doing when he ran away. It was like something like that. But now this one's him. I don't even want to replicate the pose, but it just looks fucking cool. And you see Soft and Wet behind him, chilling. And so yeah, I think that was the best pose, best panel of the chapter so far. So then it just so happens when this guy ran headfirst, there was a child riding a bike by that got blood splattered all over him, who was actually behind Josuke. Not sort of behind him, but sort of to his right. So then we see Josuke, as soon as he notices this boy with the blood on him, he knows immediately what to do. He doesn't even think maybe he won't get infected by it. He immediately fills him up with bubbles. And with this Blue Hawaii arc, we are seeing so many things that Soft and Wet can do. So many things that aren't its plundering ability, sort of just what it can do physically with its bubbles, which is really cool. We saw it raise the shovel up. We see him use, bubbles between his hands to sort of give more of an impact to his punch and also protect himself, surround himself with a bubble. So, I mean, I really feel like this would be a lot easier if Josuke used creative ways to, utilize his plundering ability to steal things from people, but he's not. For some reason, he's only using Soft and Wet in a physical way. So he fills the boy up with bubbles, and this is interesting right here, though, because this could be debated. We see bubbles completely spewing out of this boy's mouth, so it's assumed that his entire body is filled with bubbles with some material that's lighter than air that would raise him up into the sky. He just kind of levitates a little bit, but hear me out. Is this soft and wet raising the boy because he is filled with bubbles, or is this Josuke stealing his weight or sort of his gravity? I don't know. Probably not the plundering ability, because I just mentioned how he hasn't been using it at all. And I think he just filled the boy with bubbles and he's being raised up. But I don't know. I thought it was cool. Like, could soft and wet even do that? Completely steal someone's weight to make them like as light as a feather, if not lighter? That'd be interesting. So now we see more callbacks to the Highway Star arc. And here's another theory. Araki, in some of his interviews, he talks about how he wrote like parts 1 and 2 so long ago that when he goes back and rereads it or watches it, it's almost like he's watching it or reading it for the first time, because he doesn't even remember a lot of the characters that he wrote. And I wonder if Araki is actually taking inspiration from part 4 and sort of alternate universe Highway Star arc, or he just completely forgot about the Highway Star arc and is just doing it again. And he's like, this is good shit, man. This is great. And it's like, he doesn't realize that he's already done this before, but I'm sure he's just doing a callback. Alternate universe Highway Star arc, automatic stand, Josuke in the city. Instead of a motorcycle, he gets a bicycle, which is even fucking cooler. So he's on a bike, and he gets away from the boy really quickly. But he knows that it's always going to be chasing him. Same with Josuke and Highway Star. He knows that's always going to be coming after him. All he's able to do is buy time until he can find the user. So yeah, I need to make a video talking about how this is so similar to the Highway Star arc and comparing all the parallels to it. So now we just get some repeating dialogue. So far this chapter has just been more of the same. Josuke running away from an automatic stand and, repeating that it would be dangerous to contact Norisuke-san and that the stand might be infinite and I just need to find the user. Because Josuke is really saying that I have no idea who the user is. I have to have some sort of clue. And he says, Yasuo-chan, please at least get me a clue. And then we switch to Yasuo's perspective, and like the best girl she is, she, no bullshit, she just goes to the place and she finds what Josuke wanted her to find. She finds the tooth, and really smart about it. She remembers not to touch it, just investigate it, use your stand ability on it. So we see Paisley Park be used in even a different way right now. If you look, she's actually in the camera app on her phone, supposedly iPhone in the JoJo universe. So she's in the camera app because you can see the camera symbol in the bottom of the screen, and she takes a picture of it without touching it. And then Paisley Park completely works. We've seen Paisley Park have a physical manifestation, but the way it's working right now is that Yasuo took a picture of the tooth, and now Paisley Park is using its ability and visually projecting it through Yasuo's phone, which I think is really cool to give us that, the visual of how Paisley Park is working, and it gives Yasuo sort of a better understanding of her stand by being able to see how it finds things. And now we have the coolest panel of Paisley Park yet. It just completely like free falling downwards, doing like sort of similar to the Josuke pose. I think it was like really early in JoJolion. I'll throw it up on screen, showing you the parallels. But yeah, she's just like jumping down. And I think this is the first time we really see Paisley Park's eyes close up. Obviously, they're not eyes. They're just kind of little indents in her face. But Paisley Park, one of the coolest looking stands in the alternate universe so far. How it sort of is, it's really Yasuo, although Paisley Park is a lot larger than Yasuo. They have the same hair, and it's pretty much just Yasuo's body blacked out with GPS, because like I was linked by Medi, an article talking about how Paisley Park is sort of based on bad GPSs. I plan on having a Paisley Park explained video coming out soon, or I'll talk more about it then. So Paisley Park just continues to open door after door, and Yasuo is like, how deep is Paisley Park going to go? She keeps going deeper, and Paisley Park actually breaks something open in her sort of other dimension. Paisley Park has access to like this whole other world that just contains all information of like everything, it seems like. And she breaks something open and she just finds a file cabinet. And when she pulls out of the filing cabinet is a x-ray of teeth. And obviously these are Dolomites teeth that were linked to the tooth that she took a picture of before he was completely fucked up, because those are some nice looking dentures in that picture right there. And then we get some more context to the documents that she found, and I'll read this word for word. It says that on December 4th, 2007 and January 25th, 2008, a total of 15 rabbits that were raised by the students at the elementary school in the pen on the school grounds. Sorry, I totally skipped over that word, whatever the elementary school was called. I could not pronounce that in real time. So we see that these teeth are connected to 15 rabbits being eaten. It says they were bitten and eaten not by an animal, but by a human. And that human was Dolomiti. Although it's not 100% confirmed it's Dolomiti, but there are more documents that Paisley Park will find soon enough that do give us the evidence that we can link this one to Dolomiti as well. And Paisley Park is really an incredible stand, and Yasuo realizes here that Paisley Park can get access to anything. She realizes that, she says, Paisley Park got into investigation documents, and she says that this is from the city police department, and in her, sort of digital world, Paisley Park can find anything. And then we get the other documents I was talking about. It says in October 2010, there was another incident in Morioh, this time involving a farm nearby where the same elementary school was, assuming this is where Dolomiti grew up or where he lived. It says 25 chickens were eaten and their meat was taken. This time, the police identified a suspect based on the bite marks and DNA left on the scraps of meat. And here's a photo of him. And we see Dolomiti in his youth. He looks very similar to like he did in the flashback. And then we get Dolomiti's real name, which is Durakoma Masaji. And she says age 39, so either he was 39 at the time of the photo being taken, or he's 39 years old now. But the police were never actually able to pin this on Dolomiti. He was just a suspect, and the case is still open. But the tooth that Paisley Park found inside the bubble is a match to the same tooth from the police documents. So that's all the context we really get here for Dolomiti eating 15 rabbits and 25 chickens. I really don't know what to think of this. I was in the Discord channel talking to people today saying, all right, guys, I'm doing the review and I'm totally lost. I don't know what to make of it. And someone made a good point that maybe it's because he's a rock human and he woke up after like 3 months of slumber, and rock human sort of aren't as morally correct as normal people. From what we've seen with, people like the Aphex brothers, very crude, or at least that was just them. But it's assumed, I'd say the most reasonable thing is that either he woke up from a long slumber about 3 months from being a rock person, and he just needed to eat a lot. And the closest thing to him, because assuming they kept using the same location where he went to elementary school, or he visited the elementary school, and the farm where he ate the 25 chickens. So either he just woke up from his slumber wherever he decided to rest, and he just went to the closest food near him and just ate a lot of it. I think that's going to be the prevailing theory for me as of now, unless we get more details on it in coming chapters. But if we don't, I really think we can conclude this to just him waking up after slumber and just eating a lot of food, because they did use the same location twice, so it's assumed that that's where he takes his slumber. And Yasuo just has no idea what to make of this. She's saying, this is the guy attacking the Josuke right now? Like, what are his motives? Why is he doing this? And where is he right now? And this is why I love Yasuo. She does everything right. She reminds me a lot of Hayato. In part 4 with Hayato is probably my favorite character from part 4 because he did everything right. I hate I hate reading manga or watching a show, and you're looking at a character and you're saying, why are you doing this? Do this instead. When it came to Hayato did everything I would have done and beyond. Hayato was great. He did everything good, and Yasuo is doing the same exact thing. I'm seeing Hayato and Yasuo right now. Like, she looks at the tooth and she sees blood on it, but she also says there's something else stuck onto it. That's dirt. I could probably use Paisley Park's ability on that dirt to find where the user Dolomiti is right now. And it's like, fuck yeah, Yasuo. Like, this is great. You are very helpful right now. You are a great character. Like, you're not completely useless. So then, right as Paisley Park comes out, she says, the dirt is where the user is. I know where the enemy is. And she pulls out Paisley Park and she says, I can give Josuke the lead that he needs. All she has to do is use her ability on the dirt. But out of nowhere, you see her face start to bubble and you see a vein start popping and it starts heating up, and she says, it's hot. And then we see Speed Cane behind Yasuo and sort of, steam coming from all over her face and her vein and her eyes. And she says, something's in my head. And then you see her eyes just blank out and she falls to the ground. And who is behind her but Speed Cane's user, Jobin. And then on the next panel, we see a really nice spread of Jobin looking down at Yasuo and Speed Cane in the background. It says, Jobin Higashikata, age 32, stand name, Speed Cane. As much as I fucking hate Jobin for doing this to Yasuo because we were so close. Oh my gosh, I feel like the arc is already going on a bit long, and now it's just completely stunted right here. I felt like that was the most logical way to end this arc. Paisley Park uses her ability on the dirt, and then we find out where Dolomiti is. She tells Josuke. Josuke goes and confronts Dolomiti. Really similar to how the original Highway Star arc panned out, but now it's completely stunted by Jobin, who... This is the first time we've seen Speed Cane used in an actual combat sense, except with the Beetle fight, obviously. But this is the first time we've seen Speed Cane used on an actual person. So the way we see Speed Cane used in this instance is the same exact way that it was used in the beetle fight, a very close range, and it could really only to be deadly or very effective, it needs to affect the brain, because if he even heated up any part of her body, she would just say like, "Ah, what the fuck?" Or it would just burn her, or maybe, interrupt a blood vessel or something. But the way we see this used most effectively is the same exact way that we saw it used in the beetle fight. Close range, heated up a part of the brain to disturb the brain and sort of knock Yasuo unconscious. So to the theory that Speed Cane is sort of holding back and we don't know all of its abilities, I think this is it for Speed Cane. I think we know its ability now. Because if he really wanted to stop Yasuo, he wouldn't use his ability this specifically and in the exact same way that we saw it used before. You would think that he would maybe use it differently in some way that would be much more effectively than having to get right up behind her and using it right next to her head. So Speed Cane, I think its ability is about set in stone now. But now we get some dialogue from Jobin, which is nice because Jobin is probably the most interesting character in JoJolion, at least for me, right alongside Kato and her motives. So, and then he looks at her, he says, "Sure has a cute face, this girl." He says, "This is my little brother's girlfriend." Totally isn't. He probably just assumes that because he always sees her hanging around with Joshua. He says her name is Hirose Yasuo. And he realizes that she's a stan user and that she's close to Josuke and also close to Norisuke-san in turn. And he realizes that it would be a good idea not to kill her because his dad would get suspicious of him if Yasuo ended up dying in a very specific fashion that could easily be linked to Jobin by a person who knows what his stan's ability is. So he really is very cautious of his father. If we even go back last chapter, a couple chapters ago, he really said, Dolimity said, "You wouldn't mind if something terrible happened to this town if I activate my ability on it." Jobin says, "I'm fine. It doesn't matter what happens as long as my dad doesn't find out, or as long as my dad doesn't know that this is happening." So Jobin is really worrisome about his father, and he really doesn't want his dad to know what he's doing because I feel like he might think his dad's disappointed in him, or he doesn't want to rub his father the wrong way because he is his father, after all. So that's kind of scary that Jobin easily could have killed Yasuo right here, just heating up her brain and just, melting it probably just with a Speed Cane at a close enough range. So I'm very thankful that Yasuo is not dead. Some people were suspecting this when just the leaks were out and we just saw the one panel that her eye just went blank. I didn't think she was going to die at all because she just got brought back in the last chapter, and that would have honestly kind of been bad writing if you would have. We haven't seen this character in 2 years. Fan favorite character comes back. She has a great stand that we haven't even seen its full capabilities yet, and then she just dies out of nowhere. Yeah, it would have been great, to give Josuke a real, emotional motive to take on Jobin and progress the story further. But I'm really glad that Yasuo is still in JoJolion and she's not dead. So then Jobin, we see him wearing the gloves and he retrieves the tooth, and that was pretty much all he went there to do. It was to get to the tooth so Yasuo wouldn't be able to trace it with her stand ability. And then he just throws it in a gutter and says Dolimity is now invincible. And now we get Jobin's true motives. The motives have always been a bit ambiguous. He always just keeps saying, we need the new Rokakaka, what we could do with this new Rokakaka. And that made at least me believe that he wanted to use it in some way. And especially being introduced to a character like Dolimity with a destroyed body, maybe use some sort of equivalent exchange on Dolimity. But now we see Jobin walking away saying he has no idea that for the future of the Higashikata Fruit Parlor, with the way I do things, the Rokakaka is vital. So that is pretty much set in stone that Jobin's motives are strictly business. He wants to continue the fruit trade in Morioh, and he wants to continue a successful future for the Higashikata Fruit Parlor and its underground black market sort of trades. So with Jobin's motive set in stone, it brings up a lot of questions, a lot of main villain-esque things, because some people are saying this is not a main villain motive. He just wants a successful business and he just wants to continue what he's been doing, and he needs a fruit to do that. And the subject matter is so silly here. The biggest part of JoJolion and the entire part of JoJo is a fruit, but it's a fruit with incredible abilities. But I mean, it's not that crazy of a motive, and it could be a motive from a main villain. Just look at Kira. Kira had no motive at all. He just wanted to live a quiet life, and people interrupted that, and it was just him trying to get his life back to normal. He didn't want world domination. He didn't want to be, you know, a powerful mob boss or anything like that. He just wanted to live. Jobin just wants his business to be successful, and, you know, he wants things to go back to normal, sort of similar to Kira. But not exactly similar to Kira, because he knows that this new fruit has new abilities, and this could, you know, raise business and, you know, bring something a whole new into the underground, you know, fruit trade. And then on the last panel of the chapter, we see the boy that was last infected with Dolomity's ability running after Josuke, and we see some more narration lines that say, in a simple, straight line, they're coming, which is just alluding to Blue Hawaii's ability that it chases in a linear fashion. So this chapter was a bit disappointing, honestly, because I feel like it just kept reinforcing Blue Hawaii's abilities when we already knew what it did. And I mean, we're in early 60s of JoJolion right now. Like, I'm expecting a lot of plot development and a climax very soon for this series. And I mean, more than half of this chapter was just scenes of Josuke using soft and wet in really cool ways, which is nice to see. But I really, at this point in JoJolion, I'm really looking more for the plot development. Like, I wish we could get more of Jobin's inner monologue and, you know, maybe him and talking to Kato and things, rather than just, you know, more of the same of Josuke running away from Blue Hawaii. And we're still left off with the stand battle still happening. I said this chapter that Blue Hawaii was probably going to wrap up, but it still hasn't. So I guess maybe next month, hopefully it's going to be Blue Hawaii Part 3, I assume, unless the stand user Dolomity's found, or the stand's defeated within the first few pages of the chapter will be called something else. But I mean, I really hope at least next chapter that Blue Hawaii finishes up. And as soon as that happens, if we look at Highway Star arc, it's definitely going to happen just by basing it off, you know, the parallel that it is to the other arc in JoJo and Diamond is Unbreakable, that Josuke is going to find Dolomity. He's going to encounter him, or he's going to encounter him and Jobin. So I don't want to speculate too much, because we'll find out next month. And with JoJo, you really don't know. Everything's so unexpected, but we'll find out next month. So let's end this here, because this is long. I know I've been talking for a while. So that was chapter 62. A bit disappointing, because I want a little bit more plot development, and I really don't like how Yasuo just got completely shafted right there. I really would have, it does add something new that Jobin is like kind of in the mix now, but I kind of wanted her to just use her ability on the dirt, tell Josuke where Dolomity is, we find Dolomity. But this is a twist, and we'll see where it goes. But that was JoJolion chapter 62, Blue Hawaii part 2. Thank you guys for watching. Like the video if you enjoyed, and subscribe for more videos, of course. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.